Right. Hello, everyone. Welcome to today's episode. It's going to be a really awesome episode with Tanner, and Tanner is going to be talking about a whole range of topics around raising awareness with people with disabilities and a part of his own journey as well. And I always love having different people on from different backgrounds because it's all about raising awareness and making other people aware. So, Tanner, would you mind for everyone listening or watching to just say a little bit about yourself, a little about who you are, and yeah, just a little introduction?
Mason, thanks so much for having me. Appreciate it. My name is Tanner Gers, founded Accessibility Officer. We're a digital accessibility company that really focuses on disability workforce development, and also built a software out of that. The software was born out of that called Dart Suite, which is a an accessibility software designed to disrupt the audit game by sourcing digital accessibility testers who are people with disabilities certified in digital accessibility. So that's a little bit about me and what I'm doing right now.
Yeah, you keep them busy.
I'm too busy, man. I have we have this Able, our a nonprofit that we have going on too. There's a lot going on trying to I'm trying. There's a lot. You got a lot of plates spinning, but I'm so blessed and so grateful to not be sitting on my hands. So blessed. And before we hopped on, I was like, we were running like, hey, recording on. We were trying to do this technical thing. I thought it was like I had this flashback. I I hosted this summit called the Athlete Summit, and I was like really trying. I was diving myself into this space, and I interviewed this guy. I really liked him. His name is Mike Robertson. We had this like blow away interview. He gets off. He's like, "Oh man, that was the best interview. That was so great." Da, da, da. He was really pumped up, right? And then I was like, "Yeah," and we get off, and like my R0 like Roland 05 thing wasn't like recording, and I missed the whole thing, and I had to, yeah, that email was so painful. That
Oh
email was
no,
so painful. Like Mike
yeah, I,
lost forever. That was back in
I
the
remember
Skype days, though. That was like way
on the
before
Skype
Zoom.
days. Yeah, like
Yeah.
I know exactly the feeling because once I remember I had someone on and I thought I recorded it, but I didn't. So it was 10, 15 minutes in, and I realised, oh, we're not recording. And then I say to them, "You're not going to believe it. We have to start all over again because I haven't recorded a single thing that you've said." So we start again. They were. I can't. To be honest, I can't even remember who it was. I'm that bad. I have so many different people on, so I don't even remember. But I remember that happened once, and yeah, I don't know why. I don't know if it's a Zoom thing or it's just a memory thing.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I that stuff happens to me all the time. All the time, all the time.
Yeah, because you just feel. I'm sure, like because if you thought you've recorded and you haven't, you're probably the most fact is you're probably not going to say exactly what you said the first time. You're probably going to change bits and not say everything as it was.
Well, that's why you asked me about the otter, right? That's why I got the otter following me around. It's like I can't remember it all. It's I got to go back to the transcript, see what was had, and the summaries helped me out too a little bit. So, how do you use the tools to
Yeah,
be better, faster, stronger, right?
it's really interesting and clever, especially if you struggle with that and it helps you because I was like I've never had that before in a meeting. Um, it's new to me, but when you explained it to me and that it helps you, I'm like, yeah, if it helps you, that's fine with me.
Well, I used to, like I was diagnosed ADD ever before there was an H. Like it was so bad. And I think that this was like the reason why I couldn't read books. Like math, no problem. Like I could just see the problem on text, like characters, like the numeric the numbers make sense. But like words, like I know what the word means. Like I understand the definition. I can I don't, but when I read them, I don't know I don't know what the page said. And it was like in seventh grade, I was just like, I was done with books. And I wish that I knew about audiobooks, right? Because if I would have known about audiobooks, like I could have, today, now that I listen to books, like I've got, I don't know, a couple hundred books in my Audible library. Like I love to read. I'm a nonfiction guy, but you know,
Yeah,
I didn't know hearing was the unlock, right? So
that's it. Like I struggle, like with my autism, I struggle with concentration about certain things. Like I remember a long time ago when I was at school, they would pick on people that maybe who didn't participate or didn't want to read out loud, and they would do
sure.
that, and I didn't like it that I got picked on because sometimes I was fine with spelling, but sometimes I was daydreaming. I was thinking about what I want to do when I get home. I was thinking about I want to go on the PlayStation when I get home. I want to continue playing that game that I played last night. I don't want to read snakes and spiders, whatever the book's about, because I'm not paying attention to it. I'm concentrating on what I want to do. So they get to me, and I don't even say. I'm scared to say that I don't know what position we are in the book. So I just read. I just read a random line from a random page, and, and then I'm reading it, and they're like, "Mason, we're not there. We're like a few chapters ahead of you. What are we doing?" I'm just, I'm just there,
This
but
is where I'm at.
but the thing is, right? I feel in my mind, it happens a lot. I think I know there's going to be questions. There's going to be a question sheet at the end of this. When we've read a certain
Mm,
section, there's always questions in English or something like that. So what I do is they double bluff themselves really because what
right.
they do is in the question it'll be like from page 6 to 7, and then in the question it might be like Mina, why did Mina jump over the rope? Really good. So I'd look for Mina in the book. I'll skim read, find the word Mina, and see if it tells me the
Totally.
answer. And that's me doing without actually knowing what actually happens in the book. So that's what I
That's
did.
right.
That's what I did. And yeah, but I'm like you.
You're
I
good.
prefer it read to me.
Yeah, the it's well, you know, and I have a 6-year-old and I'm thinking about her, right? It's like, oh, it's like shoot, like she should have like the text and the audio at the same time. Like, is there another way that is there another is there another sense that I can tap into? I don't know. But um, you know, and I think also too, like, you know, I think that comes from a place of like having high expectations.
Yeah,
Um, and and I can't have like the same I can't put the same expectations I might have on myself on other people or other people I love or like my kids, like create barriers. That's just create barriers between me and them. And and you know what my expectation for my daughter is? Like uh, you know, for her to live like her life. You know what I mean? Like to her to be like a strong human being that's ready to go out there and do whatever it is that she wants to do. And I got to be cool with that, right? Just like I've got to be cool with where I'm at and what I want to do. And just like what you were saying, right?
yeah,
It's, you know, I wasn't the best at reading books. You were, you know, you didn't care to read this about the spiders or the snakes either. And right, so just gotta we gotta all do what we're here to do.
yeah. Quite a lot. I was saying this the other day. I had a meeting about it. We was talking about what we get taught in schools isn't correct. All of it isn't
Mm,
correct.
sure.
Over here in the UK, the the system of schools is really bad.
Mm,
It needs to change quite a lot of it because a lot of what we get taught isn't necessary in life. Some of
sure.
it is, right? We spoke about maths earlier, right? Algebra
Sure.
is not necessary for every single job. Algebra is necessary if you're going to work in computers.
Yeah.
It's necessary.
Engineer. Yeah.
Yeah. Um, any sort of computers or like engineers and stuff you need to know. But it's not necessary, right?
Even even finance. You don't need algebra for finance, right? You
Huh?
need like you can divide, multiply, subtract, and add. Like that's
Yeah,
basically fine.
that's it. Like RE, RE, like history. It's well and good knowing about that, right? If you're going to be a historian, so there's in every like maths, English, science, they
Oh, it
pick
just clicked.
they pick the certain subjects that you're supposed to do. But hang on a minute, I might want to be a PE teacher, but some aspects of maths and some aspects of English. You have to have that to be a teacher. But I find, for example, taxes, like stuff like that, what you've got to pay when you have a house. I was never
Mm.
taught any of that at school.
Right.
It's never brought up any of it, and I feel like that's more important than learning algebra. Definitely. I think there's many things in school, books included, about reading. Although it's important to read, of
Have
course.
Have you heard about the rise of like these like trade schools, high schools in the United States? Have you heard about this at all?
No, what? Tell me more.
It's like it's just like new. I mean, they're changing how they're teaching things, right? And that's definitely for sure. Like they don't teach math how they used to teach math, and I don't remember my daughter's in first grade. I don't remember reading in first grade. My daughter's like she's not like fluidly reading, but she's like you know, she's putting words together. It's pretty cool. And so it's like, oh, they're changing things, but they're also creating tracks for trades in high schools where you learn the trade and then you apprentice. Like you'll do like your class will be like, oh, it's like construction or electrical or plumbing. And then you actually then get a job where you're apprenticing. So part of your school is actually working on the job. And you'll do that for a year or 2 years or whatever, and then the idea is that out of high school, you have this, you completed an apprenticeship and now you're actually in the industry doing that career.
Oh, that's quite interesting. How that happens.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think it's great, right? Like,
Yeah,
this thing, plumbers, heating, air conditioning, right? Electrical, all these things that we need to like live locally, these unsung heroes. And um I think, yeah, I'm glad to see that, that's, our population continues to expand, right? We can't control ourselves over here. I think, well, that's not true. I mean, I guess we're like kind of decreasing in population size now, but,
yeah,
um, but yeah, I mean, they're building at least, right? And all those buildings need to have maintenance. So
definitely,
yeah.
definitely. Like what I found, I found personally, I get told because it's all about the young people with the different work I do. It's all about their voices that they need to get heard. But like people like your daughter who's at school and people like that, they're the important ones. They're the new generation, who are going into school, and we want them to have the best uh, school life they can. So I get things brought to me all the time, stuff that I can't personally do because in every school environment, someone's in charge. Unfortunately, someone is in charge of that, and they could be different to another. So I get things brought to me, and it happened when I was at school. Not all, but some teachers try. When they teach the class, they try and do it as a whole, and don't realise maybe some students in the classroom may struggle with that, and they may that need
Totally.
that extra help. So a lot of teachers will say we're doing a lesson about maths and we're doing about algebra. They'll tell everyone what you got to do and what you got to do for the work for the class, but then they'll just sit back and they won't realise that there will be kids in there that don't take it because we all have a different brain, right? We all have a
Yeah.
different brain. If we had the same brain, I would understand that completely. So I'll be like, okay, we're all going to understand that really good. But it's just not how life works. We're not all going to understand the same thing, um, unless
Right.
we keep learning and learning. But if you expect that out of someone, it's going to be really hard for the student to ask for help because they think the teacher knows what you're doing. But sometimes if you tell the teacher that I'm struggling, they might say to you, "You try again." So it's
Right.
hard, right?
Yeah. It's very hard. Yeah, I think the alternative career pathways. So like to I trade schools like I was just talking about, and these alternative career pathways, especially for people with disabilities, um, you know, need to be more widely available. And I know that things are a little bit different over here in the United States, and there's programs called vocational rehabilitation, but the context is so our vision is that the US disabled unemployment rate should be the same as the US unemployment rate. And we're focusing on that because of the programs that allow us to kind of leverage that opportunity. So I have been in digital accessibility for about 10 years. I got placed into it through the being a US Paralympian. They have a great athlete career transition program. And I got placed with a tech startup in Tucson, Arizona, selling digital accessibility job boards in like 15, early 2016. And you know, there were some struggles there. That business stopped, but some founder struggles. So that opportunity ended. But I became aware. I was like, oh my gosh, like digital accessibility is an opportunity. It's like, especially for people with disabilities, right? Like you
Yeah.
want to like digital accessibility compliance for people with disabilities, duh. So I went to LinkedIn, found some nonprofits and some organizations doing it, connected with this one, had said, hey, here's some stuff going on with your website, would love to help. He ended up giving me a job as a tester. A couple promotions later, I was working really hard. Don't get me wrong, I was working really hard. But a couple promotions later, I was executive director there, and we were building out that sales program and that team. We almost sold it off to another big national nonprofit. That deal fell through. But then I went over to um, the American Foundation for the Blind, started working their digital accessibility consultancy, got out of the nonprofit sector, went private. I was at a company called UsableNet as their head of partnerships, and um, and then in late 2021 went out on my own and I started Accessibility Officer. Now, all this came about because when I was a young adult in 2004, I woke up in the hospital totally blind after a really bad car accident. So there's a lot of other story and trauma behind that, you know, um, but I eventually found myself, feeling the discrimination like socially, education wise, medically, even, the doctors, how they would, treat me, just, people just treated you horribly, and especially in employment. And, I knew that if I'm going to do something with this life, like it's going to be up to me to do it. And when I create something, when I have the opportunity to give people like me a chance, I'm going to do it. So when I started Accessibility Officer, I was very fortunate. Um, and I started getting digital accessibility business coming in. But I couldn't source talent who were blind with the technical skill or ability to do the job at the level it needed to be done. So we built a training program. My partner, Heather Burns, the genius behind it, built this training program specifically for people who are blind to get these certifications, the Department of Homeland Trusted Tester, and then our CAT 2.1 at the time, now 2.2, um, to help go beyond that to meet, the most current um, accessibility compliance standards. And then so we get them trained, and it's like, then we give them a job. And duh, right? Like, and I think that's like one of the big gaps, like how, like why there's such big gaps, right? Is that, you know, people come out of college, they may not have the internship opportunity that's a normal, like mainstream type of thing. They haven't had that first job, or they get a specific certificate or job training program. Like, there's other digital accessibility ones like mine, right? None of them that I'm aware of guarantee employment through an apprenticeship when you graduate. Um, and it's so important because it allows people with disabilities who have never really worked before, don't understand how to navigate the professional environment. It gives them a safe space to try and fail forward, right? To get feedback, like objective feedback on how to, integrate, how to integrate's the wrong word, how to transition into competitive integrated employment, and what are the challenges that you'll face, and what are some of the things that you have to do. And some people, it's a really great career exploration um too, for people. They realize that, hey, like digital accessibility, it's not like the thing for me, but I'm going to use this as a catalyst to do something else that I really want to do, like cyber or IT support or project management or human resources or whatever.
Yeah.
um so yeah, so that's been like you know, that's I'm insanely passionate about that. And so there's I think I think I might still have this on my LinkedIn profile. It's like, every time a blind person gets a job, an angel gets its wings. And I can't speak personally to, you know, the the discrimination, and the oppression, the barriers that you face, right? But I'm certain you face them, right,
Yeah.
Mason?
Yeah, I know exactly what you mean, and like I can't speak for you either, because we're totally different. We have similar like barriers, and I like what we've already said, around like the understanding of certain things, which does lean into what both of our journeys really. But what I think is really cool because like not I spoke to I spoke to different people who've got um eh, 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 like vision, like they can't see. But I think your story is really good because really interesting as well. Because from that car accident that you had, I think you said that you went completely blind from that accident, and then after that you've decided, hang on a minute, I'm not going to get let that get me down. Just because I've been in a car accident, I'm blind, doesn't mean I can stop. So I think it's really inspirational because, um, like at first you might have felt like awful, um, that that's happened, but because you want to help other people in case that happens to them, and you've got a team for the blind people on there, and you're doing different things. So with your team or the people that you have recruited, what are the different things like the different job roles that they do, and what is the purpose of doing this? I know it's the rated awareness, but why specifically recruit people like yourself? Is there so there's no stigma around that, so it doesn't continue. So just talk to me a little bit about that.
Yeah, so great questions. So we are expanding the scope to have people, who would qualify for what's called vocational rehabilitation in the States. So people with significant disabilities with job barriers, can qualify for special programs like our Certified Accessibility Tester program or our Getting Hired Playbook, which are designed to help people get hired or get employment. And but there was the last. Was the last part of the last part of your question was pretty insightful. Um, shoot, I forgot. Um,
Do you want me to say that? Do you want me to repeat it?
yeah, would you please?
Yeah. So what I said was because you've recruited other people who are blind, right?
Yep.
And my question was what
Oh,
different?
the stigmas about it. Yeah. So
Yeah, yeah.
what? So our perspective, our philosophy, right? Like our strategy is that we want to, and again, so we're doing digital accessibility right now, but we want to expand this model out into other career pathways. We're working on that right now, but we chose digital accessibility because it is a career path that people with disabilities can enter and be good in. They can get trained, they can get technical certifications, they can develop skills. And so we want our philosophy is in order to us to make a big impact, to actually achieve this vision, we're not going to do it one-offs here. We have to change the culture. And so systematically and strategically, we want to start to put people with significant disabilities who are skilled in particular jobs into competitive integrated employment. They've got to win where we identify um, we have a lot of self-identity as a culture, right? One of the most first or second questions that we ask new people is what do you do or what do you do for work? What's the 9 to 5? We have so much self-identity in what we do for a living and how much money we're making. And so when we get skilled people with disabilities in those same positions, shoulder to shoulder, where people derive a lot of their self identity and value and ability to put food on the table and where they live right? The financial independence. When we put people with significant disabilities who are skilled in those positions, we're going to start to change,
Yeah.
right? We'll see, people, the consciousness start to shift. And so that's why we want to identify, that's how we start. It's not perfect, but we identify the careers that we know that people with disabilities can really succeed in, create training programs for them to get technically skilled, provide job opportunities and apprenticeships for them to professionally develop and develop the acumen, the soft skills, the other things, and then help them transition into the industry. And by doing so, create cultural and social shifts in how we think about employment. And we make sure that that shift has people with disabilities included.
I think that's brilliant. I I I really do because like you're not just blind people, so it is just people in general that have a disability that can't get into the job industry with other people that don't have any disabilities. I think that's really good and really important because the stats for people getting a job with a disability is really really low, and I think it's really good that you open up ways for people to do that because people get judged. For example, eye contact. Um, um, it's
That's
hard,
right.
right?
That's right.
Like when people go in for interviews, they don't know your disability. They don't know, so like yourself, they don't know you're blind. That if you don't say anything, um, like it's really hard because they think you have to look at someone to get a job, right?
Well,
And
I'm so sensitive to that. Like it takes so much cognitive bandwidth for me to try to focus, right? Like right now, like I have to imagine where the camera is. Like my
yeah,
attention might be like right on you, right? But it takes so much cognitive bandwidth just to have like to like
that's right.
visualize that in my visual cortex, maintain that plus the conversation, right? And then so when I'm in my head, as it were, like I like to say, like if you're describing something, right, I have to visually, for me to not like trigger something in someone that doesn't have a disability,
Hmm.
right? For me to not do that, I have to maintain that eye contact. But if they're asking me something and I have to be thoughtful about it and I have to think in my head, right? Like my eye's gonna probably go crazy, right? And that's gonna like they'll stop in their tracks, right? They don't understand that like I don't have the ability to unconsciously focus my eye on you while I'm thinking about something else. And so do is make sure that the hiring manager understands their value and that it's better than everyone else that doesn't have a disability despite their disability.
Yeah,
And that is really hard to do. And so I think that's like that's why we spun the Getting Hired playbook off the Certified Accessibility Tester program. Is like we got these people, they're like great, but like, you know, they need to be able to stand out in a different way in order to demonstrate their value and communicate it effectively to the other person so that they can see beyond the aesthetics and
yeah,
actually get to the value.
yeah. I think that's brilliant. Um, Tanner, talk me through. Um, so you're blind completely through this car accident. So talk
Yes,
me
sir.
through now. So did you gain any vision back now? Like, can you see anything now, or is it still completely blind?
No, it's totally blind. So I have no real light perception. Sometimes, like if I'm in a really dark room, and like someone like, you know, took a camera and the light flashed, I might see the light flash, but I don't know if the lights are on. I don't know if they're off. Um,
That's
yeah.
brilliant. No, that's brilliant because to me, right? To me, talking to you right now, it's like you can see me, right?
Mhm.
It's
Yeah.
almost like you can. So how do you, like, how do you know where to go? Like
Mm.
when you're moving around, like, how do you know where to go if you can't see anything? How do you know?
Yes. So, also in transparency, so like I'm really hard of hearing in my right ear. And, but, and then I can't smell. So I lost, the sense of smell in the accident and the hearing impairment I was born with. But, people who are blind or vision impaired, will travel in two different ways. Typically, if their visual impairment is severe enough that they need a mobility device, like a cane or a guide dog, the cane they'll use tactile, right? So I'm using it around to like make sure that I don't run into anything, just like the guide dog would. The guide dog will also show you like curbs and stepping down. There's specific ways that it does that. Just like the cane does when I roll over the curb or I come to a curb. Your contextual awareness of where you are in space and time, like at a street or in a building, will let you know or tell you that, hey, this is probably stairs, not a curve, right? I'm inside, and this right here, I know this route, right? So I know that these are the stairs, right? Versus I'm walking outside and, oh, I'm at a curb. This block here in front of me. This is actually the curb. I know it's the curb. I can hear the traffic around me. I can know that I'm passing, the stopped traffic to my left. And now, oh, can actually feel the slight down ramp on the street. And yep, okay, here's the curb. So you learn how to travel independently, and then that's augmented by your hearing, right? Especially indoors, as well as outdoors, like hearing the ceiling or the wall or an alcove. Hearing is just, the sound are just like um, is air pressure fluctuations, right? If you've ever seen a big subwoofer, right,
Yeah.
it's just moving that air. And so we can hear those distinct things. Like the first time or one of the first times I was learning how to walk with white cane, my instructor told me it was I was in a parking lot, and she's like, "All right, go ahead and walk straight until you get to the car." And I was
Yeah.
like, what? Like I was all confused, right? And she's like, I was like, is it running? Is it coming down the way? Like what? She's like, yeah, it's just a parked car. Just walk and then stop when you hear the parked car. And I was like, this lady crazy. And so of course I just ran right into the car, right? But over time you start to develop that sense, and it sounds crazy, but like I can hear the car in front of me. I can feel I can sense the space that's it's taking up, that it's there. And
Mm.
that's because of the changes in air pressure.
Yeah, I think that's magnificent, actually, because yeah, I think your story's really interesting and awesome because I've never heard anything like it before. Like it's the first time, like I've had that on my show, and I'm glad I did because it gives me a better understanding, and it also means around like when people judge different people, because yeah, because no one's going to know you're blind unless you tell them, right?
That's
Um,
right.
um, is that why you wear like your eye patch? Is that to kind of raise awareness for that to like to tell people that
Oh no, I don't have my left eye. So my
oh
left eye
you
is
don't?
enucleated. No. So
That's gone.
in my accident, a tree came through my windshield and impaled me in the face. So blew off, significant chunk of my forehead, all the skin, my left eye. I don't, the bone. So I'll just take it off. So you can see here, so this is all implant.
Yeah,
This part of my forehead up here is all implant, and then the implant comes down to right here. So right here, this is all skin grafted in. So this was just like whole. You could see my brain; it was exposed to the air.
yeah,
And then like I'd gotten a lot of therapy, a lot of acupuncture and stuff, and like so this used to be like a movie, like evil dude movie scar, a finger like sticking up off my face. It was so big, wide, and like off my face. And then my bone, it took no one told me, right? I remember the day. But I would always be playing with this bone that was sticking out of my face right here before this was all skin grafted back together.
yeah,
And so I had to walk around basically just this like hole in my face before I would ever wear the eye patch. And people say mean things.
yeah,
And
yeah.
so I
I
started to
understand.
wear the eye patch. But yeah, so I was sitting there, I was next to my mom, she's working on the computer, and I was just like, it's like, what the hell is this? It's not glass, like this hard thing. And then eventually I was like, oh, like, mom, is this white? She goes, yeah. And I was like, this is my bone. She goes, yeah. And then she like tries to like say like I was in some bad art, but this was before like the skin like grew up over the bone that was just like sticking out of my face, and that was that was well after I got out of the hospital. That was like for a while, so it took a while for that skin to kind of grow,
Yeah.
but yeah, then I got the implant, and I got like these fake eyelids, my cheeks an implant. I can't really open my mouth. I can stick my tongue out, but that's about it. So I get like a straw and quesadillas. Thick pizza is difficult,
Mm.
but yeah. So my surgical team did a really good job putting me back together. So I wear this a lot of times to help people not be, because I'm familiar with the aesthetics, like how we live in a sighted world, and how you get judged immediately, and
Yeah.
it's not intentional. It's like unconscious. We have a generational societal stigma against people with disabilities. I know this. I discriminated against myself,
Yeah.
right? When I became blind, right? And so we have unconscious biases, and that's not our fault, right?
No.
We're we're born into, right? Like as babies, like being around whatever whatever the whatever the conditioning was, whatever the messaging was, whatever those experiences were that we don't even remember, that were embedded into us. Like we have to manage these unconscious biases, manage these unconscious biases. We're gonna have them. And so even myself, right? Like I discriminated against myself, and through that, and then through the experience of me being discriminated against externally, I began to have the empathy for all the other communities like us, right?
Yeah.
The all of us, right? Like, oh my gosh, racial, disability, you name it, right? It's like, holy shit. Like, this I felt so guilty, and so now I feel a sense of urgency and responsibility, to really make, change, and that's why we hire, blind. That's why we hire people with significant disabilities. That's why like everybody in our team, there's maybe like one or two people that don't identify as having a disability, and that means a lot to me.
It's really good what you've been doing, and thank you for sharing like everything that you said today because I think it's really important. Um, and if I didn't ask the questions I did, or you didn't tell me, I wouldn't know certain things. Um, because I think it's brilliant. I think it's brilliant that you're not letting being blind do what you do today, like recruiting people, coming on a podcast. Like it's brilliant, and you act like to me, you act like the way you are to me, it's almost like when looking at you, you're not blind, but you are. And that's where the stigma comes in. Like people are going to be talking to you, and they're going to think you're not blind because you can communicate, and you can look at them. Like you may not think that you're looking at them, but you are,
Right.
and to a certain
Yeah.
extent, from my point of view, but not from yours, of
Yes.
course. Um,
Yes.
but before we finish, I know from my notes that it said that it was either, wasn't it the Paralympics or was it the Olympics that you took part in? Would you mind just briefly just saying a little bit about that before we finish?
Yeah, I was in London in 2012 for track and field. I was in the long jump and an alternate on the 4x100 meter relay team. And I never heard the word. I lost my sight in 2004. First time I heard the word Paralympics was 2009.
Okay,
And in 2011, I started to go for it. And in 2012, I was so incredibly blessed to make it.
that's brilliant, brilliant. Did you do quite well? Do you think you did well?
No, I did terrible. I did terrible. It was horrible. It was literally one of the worst performances of my career. It was
Oh,
sad.
hmm.
Yeah.
Taking part accounts, I guess.
I was so injured, like going into the Paralympics, like at the trials. Um, the guy, contended to win it. He wasn't there because of injury. I was, my pelvis was so banged up. I could barely run, and I jumped 5.3 or 5.4 meters, and and she said, the director of high performance said that's good enough, and I was like, oh, that's not good enough, you know what I mean? But and so I jumped one more time. It was so painful. They ended up calling my name, and I ended up going to the Paralympics. But at the Paralympics, like now uninjured, I jumped like I don't know, it was like 5 1/4. It was some, so I got cut after the first three jumps, and if I would have just jumped like a normal regular jump, not even a big jump, just a normal regular jump, I would have made it to the next round, to the entire flight. And but yeah, it was really upsetting. I ate a lot of McDonald's chicken nuggets
Oh
in the
yeah,
athlete village.
yeah, yeah.
It's like,
Yeah. Make you feel a bit better, maybe.
emotional eater.
Yeah.
So
But thanks for sharing that.
Mason, thanks so much for having me, brother. This was
Thank you.
awesome. I really loved being here.
Thank you. I'm glad you did, and I'm glad that you reached out to come on because I love getting people on that I don't expect to get people on. So I think it's a really good story, Turner, that yours is. And please continue what you're doing. And yeah, thank you. And I hope you have a nice rest of your day because it is morning for you and not for me. So
Well, I know you got stuff to do
yeah,
too, so I hope you have a great
yeah.
evening.
Thanks,
And
Tanner.
yeah, thank
Thank
you,
you.
sir.
Bye.